Anyway, I love you all so much, except for Donald Trump's a piece of shit. Peace out, love you! We are the best. And he just saw us and said, I'm gonna use that technique. I'm the greatest president. I got all the greatest people, all the best, this. And then he used it and became president. And now, when we go out and perform Tenacious D, I always have like a little twinge of guilt.
Be careful, don't fall, Ben. If you fall, that's the end. You can never recover from a fall. You know, you can make the greatest speech ever, but if you fall, my predecessor taught me that.
What made Jack Black, this wild force of nature, pure human explosion, choose today to go after the most dangerous name in American politics? Because when his spotlight landed on Trump, nothing felt accidental. It felt calculated, almost surgical. The internet erupted instantly, viciously. The real question isn't that he did it, it's why now, and what he already knew.
That's our whole thing, is just like, we are the greatest band in the world, no one can touch us, we are the best. And he just saw us and said, I'm gonna use that technique. I'm the greatest president, I got all the greatest.
Once again, I look at the Democrats in front of me, and I realize there is absolutely nothing I can say to make them happy, or to make them stand, or smile, or applaud. Nothing I can do. I could find a cure to the most devastating disease.
And before we go further, hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, you cannot afford to miss this. He spent his whole career screaming he was the greatest alive. And shockingly, people believed it. So when Jack Black studied Donald Trump, that identical rhythm, that same inflated ego, that same dramatic self-worship, something clicked. He didn't see a politician.
A few days ago, my manager called me and said George Clooney and Julia Roberts wanted me to help out the president and speak here tonight. And I said, I am in. When and where? And thank you. My president needs me. And when the president wins in November, yeah! When democracy is at stake, Jack Black answers the call.
Saw pure performance. And that's exactly where this gets fascinating, because Jack Black isn't just another celebrity carelessly throwing opinions into the political chaos. He is one half of Tenacious D, a band that transformed ridiculous confidence into something genuinely legendary.
Just finally, I mean, Jack Black and his band Tenacious D made a terrible mistake here in Sydney, where the stupid guitarist said, don't miss Trump next time. Look, they've apologised overnight. The tour's been cancelled. Look, I don't believe the apology. I mean, weren't they the centrepiece of some Joe Biden fundraiser recently?
Exactly. Yeah, Jack Black was at that fundraiser when George Clooney, Jack Black, and everybody in attendance saw our current president cognitively.
Years. Their whole act was built on screaming they were the world's greatest band with such raw, dramatic commitment that everyone understood the joke. It was satire soaked in electric guitar, ego blown to absurd extremes, irony cranked completely off the charts.
So much of this energy and this kind of boisterous, in-your-face, I'm the greatest in the world, it comes from your work with Tenacious D, the greatest rock band in the world, right?
That's right.
We are the greatest, we're the best.
Yeah.
Do you think it's at all possible that your balls to the wall, I'm the best, and everything I do is amazing shtick may have influenced our current president? Is that possible?
Yes. In fact, I feel like Donald Trump saw a Tenacious D concert.
The entire joke was that the confidence was purposely absurd. Then Trump arrived. Long before the rallies, before the endless political tremors, one man was packaging himself in almost divine language. The greatest negotiator, the greatest builder, the sharpest mind in any room. When Jack Black began recognizing that familiar rhythm, it stopped feeling like political strategy and started resembling a performance that had broken free. He once laughed that Trump slipped into a Tenacious D show, absorbed every thunderous claim of greatness, and walked away with the formula, minus the irony. That observation lands as comedy on the surface, yet something cold and troubling lives underneath. Because Tenacious D's self-glorification was always openly fake. The crowd was always in on it. Trump's version arrived without that knowing wink. The bravado wasn't a stage character. It became the backbone of a political movement, and somehow, devastatingly, it moved millions. Jack Black has admitted feeling strange, creeping guilt performing songs drenched in that mythological exaggeration. There is something profoundly unsettling about watching your satire grow indistinguishable from reality. When parody becomes impossible to separate from a campaign speech, everything shifts. The joke sharpens. The weight becomes crushing. And for someone whose soul truly runs on joyful absurdity, that shift cuts deep.
Of their Australian tour after making a joke about the shooting of the former US President Donald Trump. Band member Kyle Gass made the joke while on stage in Sydney on Sunday. Here it was.
Make a wish, Kate. Oh my God. Don't miss Trump next time.
Well, Jack Black has announced that he feels it is inappropriate to continue the rock duo's tour. He said on Instagram last night, "I was blindsided by what was said at the show on Sunday."
To truly understand why this moment lands differently, you must look beneath everything Jack Black actually is under all that explosive, unforgettable presence. He isn't loud simply because volume excites him. He is a performer carefully schooled in the delicate art of escalation, someone who deeply understands how theatrical confidence transforms into comedy, precisely because it is so gloriously, transparently overblown. His iconic partnership with Kyle Gass inside Tenacious D was built entirely upon that dangerously thin line between mock heroic swagger and beautifully self-aware absurdity. When Trump crashed into the political arena brandishing shameless, relentless self-promotion, something felt disturbingly familiar. The distinction was straightforward. One version rode in on shrieking guitars and supernatural battles inside a rock fantasy, while the other carried genuine policy consequences and world-shaking decisions on its shoulders. Jack Black never framed it as anger. He framed it as something cosmic, almost spiritual, like a devastating robbery of the soul. In his telling, a sinister warlock had stolen their sacred formula, drained every drop of its warmth, and twisted it into something dark and weaponized. The image is beautifully ridiculous, yet captures something genuinely painful about entertainment and politics now sharing the same bloodstream. Trump's entire political identity has always fed ravenously on spectacle. Thunderous rallies, breathlessly hyperbolic declarations, hammered repetition of superlatives, the greatest, the finest, the most magnificent. It is branding through pure, relentless, deafening amplification.
I'm not somebody that's for cancel culture, but when you have somebody that goes on stage with that kind of an audience so soon after a former president's life was literally centimeters from being taken, and you make that kind of a joke, I don't buy the apology. I don't believe in cancel culture, but I do believe that there needs to be some repercussions for that kind of talk. It's one thing to have freedom of speech, which we love here in America. It's another thing to celebrate the attack.
A world buried beneath relentless noise. The loudest voice almost always wins the room. Jack Black's quiet reflection uncovers something far bigger and darker underneath. What truly happens when comedy's most powerful tools, instruments built purely for laughter, somehow slip into the highest rooms of government? When the wall between stage character and genuine public leadership crumbles, satire surrenders its protective shield. The exaggeration stops feeling fictional and starts warping real choices, real lives, real consequences. For Tenacious D, declaring themselves unstoppable rock gods was always a joyful rebellion against taking life seriously. It drew audiences into laughing together at that gloriously inflated ego. Trump's use of identical rhetorical inflation, however, invited followers to swallow it completely. Literally, without hesitation, that single shift rewrites every stake entirely. Celebrities criticizing Trump is nothing new, but Jack Black's approach cuts deeper because it emerges from genuine artistic soul-searching rather than tired partisan anger. He isn't listing policies. He isn't debating legislation. He is examining style, tone, and storytelling's terrifying power. And storytelling is everything. Trump's remarkable rise cannot be separated from his decades inside the media world. Long before politics claimed him, he was already a carefully engineered brand, amplified endlessly through television screens and screaming headlines. By the time the presidency arrived, he had mastered the mechanics of human attention. Every statement detonated into a headline. Every exaggeration hardened into ammunition. The spectacle consumed itself and grew hungrier.
Never condone hate speech or encourage political violence in any form. After much reflection, I no longer feel it's appropriate to continue the Tenacious D tour, and all future creative plans are on hold. Kyle Gass apologised for the joke on Instagram. The line I improvised Sunday night in Sydney was highly inappropriate, dangerous, and a terrible mistake. I don't condone violence in any kind, in any form, against anyone. What happened was a tragedy, and I'm incredibly sorry for my severe...
From Jack Black's place as a lifelong entertainer. That recognition must have felt haunting. The sacred tools of stagecraft, unshakable confidence, bold declarations, commanding presence were unleashed across a national stage with devastatingly different weight. Something heartbreaking lives in the idea that satire could hand someone a blueprint. Tenacious D built its soul on hyperbole as joyful comedy. Trump built his on hyperbole as cold persuasion. The resemblance is undeniable, yet the intention behind each couldn't be further apart. Jack Black's accusation of magical theft illuminates a cultural collision. Thinkers have wrestled with for years the dangerous fusion of celebrity culture and political power. When charisma becomes the dominant currency of public life, performance quietly overpowers qualifications in the collective imagination. This bleeding of entertainment into governance opens a disturbing layer of curiosity. Did Trump deliberately absorb those techniques, or were they natural extensions of his decades in media? Was it calculation, instinct, or both? The impact was undeniable. That relentless drumbeat of greatness forged a brand of voted supporters fiercely claimed and furious. Critics endlessly mocked, but almost nobody ignored. Inside a media landscape fueled by outrage and clicks, raw attention transforms into unstoppable power. Jack Black's quietly expressed guilt, delivered with laughter but carrying ache, hints at the invisible burden artists carry when their creative language mirrors something larger and darker. Satire has always been power's honest mirror, stretching reality to expose absurdity. But when power wears that exaggeration as genuine armor, the mirror doesn't blur. It shatters completely, Nat.
This evil warlock stole our magic, but just took out all of the irony. It's like, no, I'm serious. I really am the greatest. And it worked, and now he's destroying the universe. And I feel like, this is my fault.
This is you. Your fault. You did this.
Yep.
Your fault.
You rock too hard.
You rock too hard.
I'm sorry.
I just want to see.
Sorry, America.
I just want to see the footage of Trump at a Tenacious D concert in 1998 going like, yeah, okay. Like, just seeing his head in the crowd.
Consider the broader landscape of celebrity political voices. Most entertainers lunge toward confrontation, listing grievances or rallying behind opponents. Jack Black's approach was quieter, almost surprisingly thoughtful. He didn't frame Trump as simply dangerous or misguided. He framed him as a corruption of comedic energy itself. That framing pushes audiences deeper. Is the poll rooted in policy substance or pure narrative domination? Does proclaiming yourself the greatest eventually manufacture real belief through repetition? Tenacious D's existence depends on audiences understanding that proclaimed greatness is gloriously part of the joke. The laughter comes from instantly recognizing that beautiful exaggeration. When identical language arrives, stripped of irony, the emotional response transforms completely, from warm laughter into fierce allegiance or burning outrage. Jack Black's call-out runs far deeper than personal rivalry. It becomes cultural surgery. It forces the uncomfortable question of whether modern society has grown so addicted to spectacle that we instinctively reward it, regardless of what it carries. The irony sharpens when you recall that Tenacious D once released a song literally called "The Greatest Song in the World," constructed entirely on myth-making and gloriously winking heroism. In that universe, demons fall to musical genius and brotherhood. In the political universe, the stakes involve crumbling institutions, fractured global alliances, and hundreds of millions of lives.
We're in this moment. It's not every day we see the actual 2020 candidates. I mean, these are potential cabinet members in a Biden administration that we just saw rocking out with you guys. I'll go first to Kyle and then to Jack. What's it mean to you?
Well, it meant a lot that they participated, and what's so funny? What I missed? Oh, Jack,
I think he was laughing at my lean back. I was leaning back, and he caught a glimpse of my shirt. Keep on going, Kyle. Don't stop.
Honestly, look, you guys are. It's not normal TV interviews. I was laughing.
By casting Trump as a sinister warlock who drained warmth from their sacred formula, Jack Black smuggles real alarm inside irresistible comedy. It is a fantasy metaphor, ridiculous on the surface, yet it captures something settling uneasily in millions of stomachs. That the tools of entertainment have been weaponized into something genuinely destabilizing. Jack Black isn't positioning himself as a political strategist or policy expert. He speaks from the raw place of an artist who recognizes painfully familiar rhythms unfolding across foreign ground. That perspective carries real authenticity, flowing from years of lived experience beneath blinding stage lights. Yet Trump's devoted supporters would push back, insisting that towering confidence and iron branding are not cosmetic, but essential ingredients of genuine leadership. That projecting unbreakable strength isn't theater, it is survival. Does relentless self-promotion produce effective governance, or does it devour complexity and leave nothing behind? Jack Black's commentary never claims to answer that. Instead, it ignites the debate from a gloriously unexpected direction. By weaving rock, satire, and political rhetoric together, he dares audiences to examine what they are truly responding to when they erupt in cheers. Political leaders have always traded in image crafting and seductive language. What feels new is the breathtaking scale and speed at which those images now explode outward. Social media detonates every declaration instantly, converting hyperbole into viral weaponry. Trump's roots inside reality television positioned him to dominate that landscape with almost unfair precision. Admired or condemned, he conquered attention completely.
The comedy rock duo fronted by Jack Black has shelved their final Aussie tour dates after onstage comments about Donald Trump's attempted assassination.
Yeah, that's right, Brooke. That coming into the newsroom just moments ago. So that includes last night's gig in Newcastle that was postponed, officially cancelled, along with the gigs planned for Brisbane, Adelaide, Melbourne and New Zealand. This comes amid a growing chorus of condemnation. Radio stations vowing to boycott the band, while our ambassador to the United States, Kevin Rudd.
Black's quiet reckoning suggests that artists must now wrestle with something genuinely terrifying: the unintended afterlife of their own creative DNA. Exaggerated confidence stops landing as comedy and starts feeling aspirational. Satire loses its protective armor, yet humor carries its own stubborn resilience. By boldly naming the resemblance out loud, Jack Black snatches back a crucial piece of narrative ownership. He rebrands the similarity as conscious parody, reminding audiences that theatrical swagger can be questioned, should be questioned, must be questioned. The cultural earthquake triggered by his words ripples far beyond partisan battle lines. It reaches something raw and more universal: how we define authenticity, how we separate genuine leadership from polished performance, and how terrifyingly effortlessly those boundaries dissolve in today's relentless media storm. Ultimately, this is never simply a famous entertainer taking aim at a former president. It is a deep meditation on the primal power of storytelling itself. It is about repetitions, hypnotic grip, confidence's intoxicating pull, and the razor-thin line separating satire from sincerity. Jack Black's universe breathes fire through dragons, demons, and gloriously inflated legends. Trump's political universe breathes through thunderous rallies, hammered slogans, and iron branding. When those two worlds crash into each other, the collision lands simultaneously as comedy and as something deeply chilling, because it doesn't feel like outrage. It feels like sudden stomach-dropping recognition. Recognition that entertainment's most powerful tools have broken free from every stage and screen that once contained them. They now architect everything. Now,
remember when the left thought Jack Black was just the funny guy, the cool dude? I mean, he was, after all, the Democrats' pick for Biden 2024. Cringe. Yes, that aged so well, didn't it? And now that funny lefty is hated. He must be so lonely.
whether someone stands firmly beside Jack Black's viewpoint or fiercely against it. His framing refuses to let anyone sit comfortably. It pushes viewers into honest, slightly painful self-examination. What actually moves them most deeply? Raw substance, magnetic style, or that dangerously intoxicating cocktail of both? Because if a loud, joyful rock comedian can stare into a political movement and instantly recognize a familiar stage trick, then perhaps every one of us owes it to ourselves to pause, breathe, and look harder at the show unfolding before us. That realization doesn't dissolve when the guitars go silent. It lingers. It gnaws. It peels back an uncomfortable layer, forcing confrontation with a possibility most people desperately avoid. What if politics has already quietly completed its transformation into pure entertainment, and we perform sophistication to avoid admitting it? When Jack Black laughs about a magical formula being seized and poisoned, he isn't pointing at one man. He is pointing at something embedded inside the entire culture. He is exposing how spectacle now enters the ring against substance, and walks away victorious with disturbing regularity. Trump's messaging has always depended on relentless escalation. Every achievement becomes the greatest in history. Every opponent becomes the most corrupt imaginable. Every setback gets repackaged as glorious persecution. It is narrative inflation weaponized as strategy, feeding hungrily inside an ecosystem where human attention has become the most precious currency. Jack Black recognizes that architecture instantly, because exaggeration is the very oxygen his professional life breathes. Nat?
Once again, I wasn't trying to be funny. I just accidentally was funny. But I'm going to take the ball and run with it because we only have a limited amount of time, Kyle. We didn't expect to get Elizabeth Warren. We didn't expect to get Pete Buttigieg. These are, our heroes, and we were hoping that they would say yes, and they did. They wanted to jump in because they saw, I think, an opportunity to celebrate our American right to vote and to try to generate some excitement in the youth.
But really, for devoted supporters, that crackling energy felt raw, real, and genuinely liberating. For horrified critics, it felt like an elaborately constructed performance, completely untethered from the brutal realities of actual governing. Yet regardless of which side anyone occupied, it seized attention absolutely and refused to release it. Jack Black's deep unease appears rooted in one particularly haunting realization that irony can be quietly, completely consumed by sincerity. When a living joke becomes genuinely indistinguishable from an actual governing philosophy, satire loses the safe container it has always hidden inside. Tenacious D can scream about being immortal, untouchable legends of rock precisely because every person in that room understands and cherishes the beautiful exaggeration. When a political figure hammers nearly identical declarations without any comedic cushioning, the public is suddenly left alone to decide, is this wild hyperbole, calculated branding, or something that man genuinely believes? And that decision, made by millions simultaneously, quietly bends the entire shape of history. Perhaps the most mesmerizing dimension of this collision is what it exposes about how thoroughly entertainment techniques have colonized every corner of public existence. Confidence is no longer simply a personality trait. It has evolved into a carefully engineered broadcast strategy. Repetition is no longer merely emphasis. It has become deliberate psychological conditioning. The stage and the podium now share far more genetic material than anyone feels comfortable acknowledging. Jack Black's accusation of magical theft ultimately stops being about Jack Black or Trump at all. It transforms into a mirror held unflinchingly in front of every watching audience member. Can we still genuinely separate a rock opera fantasy from a political reality?
As someone would joke about violence, just makes me feel physically ill. I mean, people might think it's a bit of funny ha-ha at a concert to run off at the mouth about this stuff. It's not. It's about physical life.
And to tenacious, deranged, the has-been past their use-by-date band who have cancelled the rest of their Australian tour because of their on-stage Trump meltdown.
Reality show? Or have we blended them so completely that even asking the question feels disturbingly beside the point? Nat Change That Mirror cuts even deeper when you truly examine how audiences actively participate in feeding the spectacle themselves. At a Tenacious D concert, the crowd enters into a joyful, fully conscious agreement to suspend disbelief because they are completely in on the joke. They scream along, celebrate every layer of absurdity, and walk back out knowing with warm certainty that they just witnessed magnificent theater. At a political rally, the raw energy coursing through that room can look startlingly, almost disturbingly identical. Yet the emotional stakes carry consequences of an entirely different and devastating weight. Those screams aren't celebrating a punchline. They are attaching themselves to real policies, real appointments, real decisions that send shockwaves rippling into millions of actual human lives. Jack Black's commentary quietly challenges every viewer to turn that uncomfortable lens inward and examine their own gut reactions honestly. Are we instinctively drawn to towering confidence because it genuinely signals competence? Or because it feeds something far more ancient and primal inside us? Something that desperately craves dominance and certainty when the world feels like it's dissolving into chaos? The relentless drumbeat of proclaimed greatness can feel almost narcotically reassuring during moments of collective anxiety. It hands frightened people a clean, simple narrative and asks nothing complicated in return. Because spectacles only dominate when audiences reward them with attention and devotion. By dragging those theatrical parallels into brutal daylight, Jack Black sparks an overdue, necessary conversation about precisely what style of leadership we choose to amplify and why.